Welcome back. Well, Nigeria has been ranked 35th in the world in terms of doing business online, with the world embracing the new normal, which dictates a lot of economic activities and others moving online. I mean, everything is going virtual now. Nigeria cannot afford to miss out of the market. Well, what does this mean, this rating given to Nigeria? We have Chikodi Ukiwe, CEO of Show Love, an online gift business, joining us for this conversation. Good to speak with you, Chikodi. Welcome to the show. So what does this mean at all? Is this good? Is this bad? Is this worrying? Is this applaudable, being 35th in the world in terms of online business?
I think it's great. I think it shows growth. Nigeria is a country of about 211 million people, and recent stats say that 51% of Nigerians have internet access. If you take a look at just a couple of years ago, we were at 30-something% penetration. So that's awesome. If you also take a look at the levers, it gets even more interesting. Africa is #1 in penetration of mobile technology in the world, right? And your guess is as good as mine. Who is leading that charge? It's Nigeria. So we are getting access to cheaper mobile phones in the hands of more people. So statistics say around 2026, we see that number increasing to about 56 or 64% of total population who have access to internet. However, if you take a look at the bedrock of business, is payments. Business is the exchange of goods and services, but it needs to be consummated by payments. And that's why you see an influx of fintech companies. It seems like you can't get enough of fintech companies, and that's the reason, because the appetite for transacting online is increasing, and then there's a need to fulfill that need. So finance absolutely needs to be a part of it. Something that's also very interesting is that people usually forget that stats tell us that 43% of this country is younger than 15 years old. That means in 3 to 5 years, we have a new set of 18 to 19-year-olds that will now be eligible earners and will want to do business. So that explosion is expected to come. So it's great news, and it's great progress for Nigeria.
Well, there's a fear of cyberspace security. I mean, I don't know, but someone like me putting my card details online is something I cringe at.
So there's, as regards growth in general, right, there's risk. A child grows up and then all of a sudden you send them to school and they have access to internet. They will be exposed to things, but then that should not mitigate their growth, right? What we need to do is put checks and balances. Cybercrime is not peculiar to Nigeria, it's not peculiar to Africa, it's a global problem. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but in 2015, Nigeria actually put forward a Cybercrime Act. That's to show how proactive we are in trying to curb this threat. Just 2 years ago, the UN put together a proposal for a new treaty on cybercrime. So the world is beginning to understand that to be able to combat this problem, we absolutely need to come together to tackle this threat. For us, actionable points, right? It's not just enough to talk about it being part of the problem.
Exactly.
Actionable points we can see in the exercise that is going on with the NIN. A huge deterrent, in other parts of the world is the fact that you are able to be traced, you're able to be tracked. It may be corrective as opposed to preventive, but it's still a huge deterrent, knowing that if I do something, I will not get away with it. So we, as a country, as a continent, need to invest in national and continental databases. In other parts of the world, before you are able to have internet access, there's a certain amount of KYC that is done, which Nigeria is trying to do right now with the NIN. So before you have access to internet, we know who you are, we know your address, we can track you, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you talked about actionable points, because, I mean, I know we've had a cybercrime law, I mean, since the former administration, the administration of President Jonathan, but when it comes to the implementation of it, who's watching the space, who's following up, who is implementing this, then it seems like it's just there. Yes, we have it, and it's just there.
So implementation, as with most things in a developing country, takes a lot of care and wisdom. You don't want to rule with such an iron hand that it breaks the trajectory of growth. You can take a look at NI, and there were times where the date was very clear to everybody as to when the cutoff would be, and then it was extended, and then it was extended as well. I applaud our regulators, but still they have an uphill task. It's a difficult job to be able to regulate a space, but still be in charge of growth, especially at the pace in which Nigeria is growing. So definitely there needs to be some intelligence placed in that space. We also need to look at trend in other developing countries and how they've been able to regulate that space.
And then, and of course, you talked about payments, which is a major part of all of this. And that brings to mind the issue of financial inclusion, you know, which may seem like it's a challenge, or, you know, in developing or spreading this news of online business and things like that. How good are we in the area of financial inclusion to motivate or to boost the spread of online businesses?
So, on one hand, we're not doing very well. In the fact that I think last report by NIBS, we're just under 40 million BVNs in the whole country. If you take a look at the fact that we are 211 million people, that's not a very good number. And for you to be able to transact online, you need some form of financial services. So if you don't have banking services, that becomes pretty difficult. However, with the introduction of mobile money, and offline Momo agents, we've seen another set of people. Recent data says about 3% of the population have mobile money accounts. Those guys don't need BVNs to transact. Those guys don't need conventional financial services.
Isn't that a risk also?
So good. The World Bank defines financial services, right? And I don't want us to confuse it with banking services. The World Bank defines financial services as providing useful, relevant, and affordable financial services to a person. If you take a look at banking services right now, would you say it's useful? Yes. Would you say it's relevant? Yes. Would you say it's affordable? Some may say yes, some may say no. We have to be very cautious in the fact that Nigeria, we are not a template, right? We are a peculiar people, and that is why you see a lot of interesting models. We have a lot of offline models that are becoming like a hybrid, right, between the conventional banking system and your neighborhood Momo agent. So the rise of such hybrids, I think, will be the key to unlocking financial inclusion in this country.
So let's face this first before we now start getting worried about all the security because they don't have. Let's just spread the net first. That's what you're trying to say. But we still have this issue of in payment system. For instance, you use your card, you do a POS transaction, it's declined, you are debited, you go to the bank, you know, and you start the journey of calling and going to the bank and threatening the banks. You know, we still have that. That says something about our system.
Yes. I had this chat with somebody the other day about person-to-person transfers. And Nigeria, again, isn't doing very badly in that aspect. You'll be very surprised to know that in other more developed countries, it will take maybe 2 to 3 days for you to do an interbank transfer between.
But we have countries like Kenya that are doing much better.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So we need to look. We need to look at where we are coming from, right? And we need to look at countries who are doing it better. Good news for everybody, I think, is the recent license that has been given to mobile operators, right? Because they are grassroots. And this banking license, I think it's a service banking license, will be able to attack the people in the grassroots to be able to transact on that level.
Then you have e-Naira now. That's supposed to help us solve some of this problem.
Yes, I think that will be one for the future. If you take a look at, again, the World Bank definition of financial services, which is useful, relevant, and affordable, unfortunately, right now, the e-Naira doesn't tick those boxes. But I assume, you know, with a lot more adoption, it will help us in the long run in digitizing the informal economy.
But it should help us with, you know, because it's like peer to peer. So you don't have the issue like the one I just described where, you have a transaction and on one end it seems to have gone through and on the other end, with eNaira, it should go straight, right?
Yes, yes, it should. But then if you take a look at the initial stats, which I said, just about under 40 million people, which is less than 20% of the entire population, will be able to, right now, today, will be able to leverage the eNaira because they don't have access to formal banking. So that first hurdle still needs to be, passed before we can use the eNaira.
Okay, so I'm sure you've heard of the news of Equinix acquiring Main One. What is your expectation from that?
I think it's great news for the entire technology ecosystem. Main One have done a fantastic job. Since 2008, that company has done some amazing stuff. It's a great deal for both parties. I think they closed at around $320 million.
Yeah.
Some actually saying that it's a much better deal for Equinix, that they got a good deal, seeing that maybe some more money had been pumped into Main One to get it to where it is. The figure I think is around $400 million. But for Equinix, I think it's a good move because they are acquiring a company that is predominantly in West Africa, not just Nigeria, and has been offering good services. What that means for us is that we have a global player, a global power.
As the consumers now.
Yes, as the consumer, thank you. As the consumer, what that means is that we have a global power in connectivity coming into the country and into the space. And what we can see, because I read a report recently by the CEO of Main One when she said demand isn't the problem, right? We have a lot of people who are looking to consume internet. That that supply is. Yeah. So with the bringing of Equinix, right, we have somebody who's coming with more expertise who can help us fix some of the challenges that we currently have and most likely help us to increase the supply.
Well, I hope we have the attention. I mean, with Main One, we knew it was coming from us, so we had the whole attention. Now it's a much bigger company.
Yes.
I hope we will have the same attention or better attention, that is.
Oh, yes. It's very interesting to know that Equinix actually, even before their acquisition of Main One, had said that one of their visions was to become one of the leading service providers in Africa. I didn't know that until I actually read the details of the deal. So it has been a vision of theirs, and it's good to see that they're actually making moves to establishing this vision by the acquisition of such a power as Main One.
All right, thank you so much, Chikodi Ukiwe, CEO of Show Love and Online Gift Business, for joining us this morning and sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you very much.